Hey, what's going on, guys?
I'm still camping and hitching.
Sometimes flowing, sometimes stumbling, down through Belize from the Yucatan Peninsula, and now I'm here in Guatemala.
Where you'll find me living in a bus amongst the forests of Sununa on the hills of Lake Atitlan.
And you know, it's been unreal. But there's this bloke in my head all the while asking me, what the hell am I doing in my life, man? Shouldn't you be chasing a career or something? What is the point in always moving, always being alone? I'm a whole ocean away from the ground that I love the most and the people who live there. And sometimes being alone makes me feel lonely. I've got no job, no aim, no time limit. Just me backpacking the road. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't change that for the world. But ironically, all this freedom can be a little crushing. Between the rush of the highway and the peace of the world, sometimes I feel so fucking useless. Everything can feel meaningless in the low moments. This life on the road gives me a lot of space and time for reflection, and that can turn my thoughts self-critical and sad when I hit a lull. It's a luxury to even have the time or energy to debate this, but I guess it's just where your mind seems to take you when you're unemployed, sweating fish tanks and wiggling your thumb around at a raised concrete bump in Belize, or Huehuetenango, or Spantan, or wherever I may be. I've recently stumbled across a few of those blokes on the existentialism vibe. And as it turns out, I'm not the only person in history to have stressed out about the whole meaning of life thing. Albert Camus, a little bit of Nietzsche, Simone de Beauvoir, and this guy Søren Kierkegaard. All of them were basically asking, what is the point in our weird little existence? And three themes of Kierkegaard's philosophy really resonated with how I've been feeling from time to time. If anyone else has ever felt similarly paralysed by the futility of it all, like an ant in a giant soup of melancholy meaninglessness, then I hope you'll find this interesting.
Ajá, todo bien.
I broke my laptop the day that I completed my last video. That video about how chilled out everything was. And I nearly got into a little bit of gang trouble at a different spot along the Mexican-Guatemalan border. Then I lost my phone, and then I proceeded to break/lose 2 more in the space of 3 days. Long story. With someone who loves to say how much he hates technology, yeah, you can imagine I was over the moon at this enforced phonelessness, but yeah, nah, it was not so chilled out. I mean, I tried to focus on the silver linings, but in truth, I was craving that ability to feel mildly tranquilised. I've been relying on my phone to help avoid the uncomfortableness of silence. I was sad about my Duolingo streak, and I wanted to read the football transfer gossip, rumours, all that bullshit. Without distractions, in truth, our own heads can become pretty chaotically uncomfortable places to rest. There can be conflict, boredom, peace, constant chatter or ache or anger, or nothing much at all. But silence at least provides us with the space to observe what's going on. This is a period of my life where I'm living with a lot of solitude. I'm hitchhiking and on the move constantly, pretty much, meeting other humans fleetingly, but largely just solo. And then Phonus and Alone, I first read Kierkegaard. Silence, for Kierkegaard, is in more than just the absence of sound. Silence is in solitude, without all external validation or distraction. He sees silence as the path to a self that we usually avoid. A part of us that surfaces only when we're truly alone, stripped of all roles and expectations. Our heads may be chaotic and uncomfortable at times, but at least in silence we kind of give ourselves the space to observe what's going on. And also to notice the place where your feet are right now, how you connect to that ground, how your body feels from inside of your skin and on the outside of it.
And so according to Kierkegaard, silence is the space in which we start to figure out what we actually value.
We confront a kind of existential anxiety which arises from the infinite possibility of existence. A vast openness where nobody tells us who we are and each of us must decide what truly matters without anybody watching us or cheering us on. There's an infinity of ways that we could live our lives, but we only get one. Silence invites a reckoning with our own raw choices, our own values, and at its core it demands an honesty with ourselves that can feel uncomfortable. That's why we hide from it. But according to Kierkegaard, this discomfort is what makes us truly human. It's where we begin the hard work of figuring out how the hell we are going to deal with the chaos of the universe. For example, I've started to value watching ants. You can never waste time while watching ants. A little silence for me helps me find what feels healthy, what makes me feel happy, where I feel most peaceful. For example, I don't think I'm ever more peaceful than when I'm in a forest. In this phony internet world, where they don't stop lobbing constant information at us, opinions, videos, and other assorted bullshit, Kierkegaard's emphasis on silence, it offers an antidote. Instead of letting our values passively get determined for us by the social and cultural situation we find ourselves embedded within, and instead of letting our waking lives be shaped by internet algorithms aimed at harvesting our attention spans, in silence and in solitude, we can simply explore what we actually care about in a space that doesn't demand you give any justifications, and find what feels deep down good, not just sugar rush good. I often struggle to find any silence. Meditation's hard. I love filling my head with music and thinking. Yoga helps me. Breaking and losing all my technology helps a lot too. But there's a big old gap between the things I value and how I actually live. But at least in silence I feel I kind of confront that gap. Like, what really brings me peace? What gnaws at my conscience? Silence doesn't magically reveal correct values. It just gives you a space to listen to what's already going on. The hard part is obviously in sticking to the values that you've chosen. Obedience, according to Kierkegaard, isn't some one-off choice to be good, or a neat New Year's resolution that fades by February. It's about sticking resolutely to your values, especially when it's hard, when doubts creep in, and when there's no clear reward for doing so. Temptation is always lurking, and life has a habit of throwing us curveballs. So, crucially, obedience will only flourish when we have faith in what we're doing. Obedience isn't a matter of certainty, it flows from faith. Faith that what you believe is worth believing, even though you'll never know for sure. There are a gazillion potential value systems out there, potential ways of justifiably approaching the world.
How can you possibly know that you're following the right path? The truth is, you can't. So Kierkegaard says, you leap, you trust, you obey, even when you don't fully understand.
Kierkegaard saw Christianity as the ultimate leap of faith, a divine purpose to anchor one's life within. But faith isn't limited to religion. Today, many of us worship some human religion. We give divine status to freedom, individuality, pleasure, science, romance, art, or money. I guess you'd say these two are leaps of faith, belief systems that we trust to give life its meaning. We could also choose to place our faith in nature, to value not just humans, but alongside them, the web of life within which our stories are woven. To see humanity as one piece of a vast ecological network, rather than its centre. And I'm not saying that any type of humanism, Christianity, or naturalism is objectively better. Each is a way of finding meaning, and all require faith. But the idea is that we have to have faith in our own values, even when it doesn't always make sense. But I wrote my dissertation on why should we care about the natural environment, and I tried so hard to construct some kind of logically sound philosophical argument. It was going to conclusively demonstrate why we should love the natural environment as if it were a member of our very own family. As much as I'm semi-proud of the attempt that I made, obviously in the process of making it I realised that it cannot be done. There's always a counter-argument to be made. The more philosophy you do in your life, the less you know about everything. Look, I'm no Christian and my arguments were flawed, but I still deeply, faithfully believe in the sacred nature of our natural world and all of the beings enmeshed within it. No essay or scientist will ever convince me that I'm correct to think that. That's why it requires faith, and faith demands obedience. But it's not blind obedience. This is obedience to actions that align with my beliefs. Beliefs which have been shaped by an attunement to the world around you that you find in silence. Joy arrives unexpectedly sometimes, inhaled with the crispy air at dawn, or exuding from the kindness of a stranger. Joy isn't some big payoff at the end of the road. It's not a reward for faithfulness to your values. Joy is living in those values. It's what happens when you're fully present. Not striving or wanting, but living. Being here now, amongst the people and the grasses and the trees. Once you have faith in your values, Kierkegaard says, you no longer need justify your actions, you need only live them. You're not living for some future reward, you're just living. He says, like the lily in the field or the bird in the air. They don't doubt or overthink or stress about the purpose of their existence. They just are. And when I'm proper out on the road and just kind of in the zone of locating food, like figuring out where I'm gonna put my hammock, finding shelter, I feel I naturally start finding a lot of joy in the simple things. Good food, a little human interaction, reflections on the water, or sun rays through a window pane. That's when I kind of get these glimpses of what Kierkegaard might be meaning. Look, I'm always getting caught up in the future, feeling self-implosive, straying away from what I believe. There'll be moments of doubt, headaches and more loneliness, but the simplicity, the chaos and ultimately the silence of the road gives me these little glimpses of what it might be to live without needing to ask why. Just to be.
Time is supposed to, sun is supposed to go down. Sun is supposed to, like your mood, like your power, like your battery. Rise, fall, rise. Life, death, life again. Sky, ground, sky. Day, night, day again. Rise, fall, rise. Life, death, life again. Sky, ground, sky. Light, dark, light again. 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 Light, dark, light again.
Yeah, I got no idea what I'm doing, but for now I'm going to keep doing it. Tomorrow I'll hit the road with me thumb out again. Catch you soon.